wasn't all that long ago that tobacco reigned supreme here in North Carolina. The state's dry, sandy soil, ideal for the plants to grow. In the mid-20th century, furniture making also flourished in our state. 60% of furniture made in the country was made within 150 miles of High Point. And don't forget about the textile mills. Looking as far back as the 1920s, hundreds of mills were found across the state, employing tens of thousands of people, only second to Massachusetts for this industry. It was the big three industries that helped create the state's economy and our position heading into the 21st century.
Its economy has really been totally transformed in the span of 4 decades.
NC State professor and economist Michael Walden literally wrote the book on North Carolina's move away from the big three industries.
It hasn't taken that long for us to change pretty dramatically.
It really has, and I came here in 1978, so I've been here 43 years, and the economy has changed dramatically over time. When I came, tobacco was still king. Textiles were still important. Employment there in the hundreds of thousands. Apparel, the same thing. Furniture was still very dominant. All that's changed around 2000.
I am certified to teach vocational agriculture. I stayed on there for a master's degree in economics.
A change that happened under the direction of former Governor Jim Hunt.
I did my master's thesis on the question of acreage and poundage controls for flue-cured tobacco.
Hunt grew up on a farm in Wilson County and would eventually go on to be North Carolina's longest-serving governor. And it was near the end of his second term that Vision 2030 was created.
I turned to this document, which was a big reason that I wanted to talk to you today. This Vision 2030. This was not you randomly trying to bring companies here and just cherry picking. This was a real plan that you laid out for how the state could move forward. Where did the idea to do this amount of research and think about this way come from?
Well, Vision 2030 came about because a lot of us were thinking about it. Again, we had the Board of Science and Technology that was appointed by the governor, but comprised of people from universities, from industry, from business, who were aware of what the economy was going to be like and what we were going to need to do to be prepared for it.
An economy that would need to be technologically advanced to survive.
I pushed very hard to begin to look at the areas that we needed to focus on. And so then we started attracting these companies in. I created a microelectronics center. I created a biotechnology center. These were centers that were accumulating knowledge and helping companies get access to the best information.
If we'd have looked at our economy 25 years ago, it would have been furniture and tobacco and maybe cotton mills and clothing, that kind of thing. It is so much more than that today. We are high tech.
Norris Tolson has held many roles in leadership in our state, including the Commerce Secretary under then Governor Jim Hunt. He says the groundwork that Hunt and other governors laid to change the economy were insightful and proved to be very smart moves.
Back when Governor Hodges and his colleagues established the Research Triangle Park, everybody looked at it and said it's a bunch of pine trees. And nobody ever gonna want to come here. But they didn't stop there. What the governor did at that time and what future governors did behind him was he took a great asset and then he married it up to the business community. He said the business community ought to know about what we've got to offer. And then they put the third leg of that stool is they said, we want to combine the education component to that so we can offer the full ball of wax, if you will, to a client that's looking at North Carolina.
There was also a renaissance happening in the 70s and 80s in the banking industry.
So you saw a process of trying to both improve efficiency and reduce risk that led to pretty rapid consolidation in the industry. And North Carolina led the way because our laws had actually been more liberal than many states.
Allison was at the helm of BB&T, based in Winston-Salem, as these changes were happening.
It was exciting. The industry was inefficient because the regulations had created lots of small banks. And the industry really economically should have been consolidated. The consolidation process was a lot about what I'll call science and the economics of the deals, but it was also about chemistry, about people that wanted to work together. And BB&T was very fortunate. We did over 100 acquisitions, and part of it was the economics, but a lot of it was the human fit. We got fortunate to find companies that were like our company, and we got together.
Banking is now synonymous with North Carolina, ranking second in the nation for our banking center, which is largely found in the Queen City. Put all of this together, and now North Carolina is known as a banking, food processing, tourism, and biotech economy.
North Carolina is in the top 3 clusters of biotech in the country. Boston and California being the 1 and 2, and then North Carolina hot on the heels, and maybe even now surpassed one of those.
The major changes in a short time span have been pretty remarkable to watch.
I think the very interesting about North Carolina is you could have said, well, gosh, their major industries are going to get clobbered. This state is going to fall down. It's going to backslide. And it hasn't.
But leaders say the forethought was needed to keep us strong into the future.
People need to understand this isn't just frivolous stuff. This is our future. These are our jobs. These are the chances for our children and our families.
And they're quick to point out the work is not complete.
That's North Carolina. We've got to keep it up.